Ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? It's your boy Omar back for the first time in forever. I was watching some of the college football playoff response and felt like I'd make my own video. Of course, I'm a huge college football fan myself, and the first college football playoff rankings came out last night, Tuesday night. Of course, the committee gathers every week, and starting in week 10, which we are now in, makes a ranking list every week. So unfortunately, this school right here, my school, UAlbany, not in the FBS rankings. But let's just pull up the rankings here really quickly so I can talk about it. But off the top of my head, just the first thing that comes to mind is I'm very excited with what the committee is doing. Essentially, there's been this issue in college football the past couple of years of strength of schedule. Uh, you know, should we weigh a team that has one loss but it's to a great team higher than a team that's undefeated but hasn't really beaten anybody? This has been the debate for a few years now. And, my favorite team, the Washington Huskies, have been affected by this because we've had lackluster non-conference schedules in the past couple of years. And even though, like I said, it's a negative thing for my team this year, I still think it should be taken into effect. But what I really wanted to see was I wanted to see the committee not afraid to realize that some conferences that have been great, the SEC, are not necessarily what they once were. And I wanted to see the committee take notice of the fact that some teams that used to be great aren't quality wins anymore. So, without further ado, here's the top 10. I'm sure you guys have seen it already, but number 1 there is Georgia, number 2 Alabama, number 3 Notre Dame, and number 4 Clemson. So that's the 4 that would be in the playoff if it started today. Number 5 is Oklahoma, number 6 Ohio State, number 7 Penn State, number 8 TCU, and number 9 and number 10 are Wisconsin and Miami, 2 undefeated teams behind 5-7-1 teams. Or sorry, 6-7-1 teams. So one thing we saw right off the bat, Alabama, consensus number 1 team in the AP poll all season long, is now number 2 in the first college football playoff ranking. And really, this doesn't affect the Crimson Tide that much. I know Nick Saban is a big coach speak guy where he says that the rankings don't matter and they're poison to his players. Well, of course they matter. I mean, if they don't matter, then you don't make the playoff if you rank 5th. So yeah, it definitely matters. But what I think he's trying to say, and what is true in what he said, is that right now, at number 2, Alabama knows it's all in front of them. If Alabama wins their games, they're going to be in the playoff. They don't have to worry about if they're first or second. They're in the playoff either way. And they do have what would seem to be a looming date with Georgia. Remember, these two are not scheduled to play each other, but right now it looks as if they would play each other in the SEC championship game. So Alabama not only has a chance to make the playoff regardless of if they play Georgia or not, everything is in front of them, like I said, but also they don't have to worry about Georgia being in front of them because they could very well get a chance to play them and show that they're better. So I think right now this is just a tool for Nick Saban to be able to motivate his players with. I'm sure he's happy about it. The rankings did come out yesterday, Halloween, on his birthday. The next thing you notice is, like I said, 6-7-1 teams have been placed between number 3 and number 8. Sorry about that. Just trying to put the numbers, crunch the numbers in my head. But and then, of course, behind those 6-7-1 teams comes 8-0 Wisconsin and 7-0 Miami. 8-0 Wisconsin and 7-0 Miami are 2 speculative teams. We're not 100% sure about these teams. First of all, they haven't played that great of opponents. I know that people say, oh, well, Miami beat Syracuse and they beat Clemson. How can this be? Well, Syracuse beat Clemson at home on a Friday night. It was a wacky game. And then Syracuse goes to Miami. It is pouring rain. The grass is all over the field, terrible field conditions. Eric Dungy, Syracuse's quarterback, throws 4 interceptions, and they're still in the game. So I'm very skeptical of both Wisconsin and Miami. They haven't looked good in being undefeated, and they haven't played many good teams. So, like I said, especially with Wisconsin, they know that they don't have to panic about this too much. They can prove they're better than the Big Ten teams in front of them, Penn State, Ohio State. So they have time. As for Miami, they're kind of in a tougher spot. They're going to have to prove themselves against Clemson here at some point. But I mean, right now, Miami kind of looks on the outside looking in, and I don't really see a clear path for them to make the playoff. So I liked it. I really have been skeptical of the committee and how much they actually pay attention and crunch the numbers and everything in the past couple years. But I thought their first rankings were pretty much spot on. One thing I really did like, you have Oklahoma, who's 7-1, and you have Ohio State, who's 7-1. Now, yes, you can argue that Ohio State's schedule is a little bit tougher than Oklahoma's has been. But in my opinion, when you take two teams, they're both 7-1, so they have the exact same record, and they have a head-to-head game, which Oklahoma not only beat Ohio State in, but beat them pretty handily at Ohio State. I think that's enough to keep Oklahoma in front of Ohio State no matter what, so long as they hold the same record. I think if you're looking at any time, you're looking at two teams with the same record and they've played each other, I think it's a no-brainer. You defer to the head-to-head game, and yes, coming down the line, you could say that's going to happen between Penn State and Ohio State as well. Ohio State's victory not as convincing, and also at home against Penn State. So I think it's something to keep in mind. Oklahoma does belong in front of Ohio State for now. But the beauty of this, if you look at the top 10, the top two teams are SEC teams. The fourth and 10th teams are both in the ACC. There's 3 Big Ten teams in there. So right off the bat, I just listed 7 of the teams in the top 10. Of course, you have Notre Dame being an independent, but they have a tough schedule as well. And then TCU and Oklahoma are both in the Big 12. So these teams are going to have to battle at some point and kind of weed out the others. So that's always a good sign. You want to make sure that these good games are happening, first of all, but second of all, that it becomes more clear, the playoff picture, and you feel like you're really putting the best 4 teams into the playoff. Another thing, just quickly before I wrap up this video, it was said that the Pac-12 and Big 12 have submitted a proposal towards the playoff committee to expand to 8 teams. And in their proposal, basically what they've said is they want it to be 8 teams in the playoff, with the first 5 bids going to the winners of the Power 5 conferences. That is the Big 10, Big 12, SEC, ACC, and Pac-12. I like the proposal. I think it really takes care of that whole which conference isn't good enough to get in, and it still leaves 3 at-large spots, which is great. You could get a mid-major school, a school in there, a Mountain West school, something like that, or even an American Conference school. And then also, say for example, there's a situation where we have Georgia and Alabama, it still leaves room for 2 teams in a dominant conference, or 2 dominant teams in a bad conference. Anyway, that's it for my video today. I'm back on YouTube. Going to be making some more videos in the coming weeks. I've just been very busy with school and everything. But there's lots to talk about, of course. I have my Mets, my Giants are terrible. But I should be coming at you with another video very soon. Don't know exactly what right now, but be on the lookout for that. Thank you for watching. Of course, once again, the top 4 right now in the first college football playoff rankings: Georgia, Alabama, Notre Dame, and Clemson. We'll see if it holds up. We'll see if somebody sneaks in. See you later.